The following production is part of the Play Some Video Games podcast network.
Greetings, members of the Triad, and welcome to Board with Video Games, the gaming podcast that strives for the right balance of coverage for the games you play on your table and on your television. You can think of us as the Shaggy and Scooby of gaming podcasts. We're proud members of the PSVG Podcast Network. I am one of your hosts, Kyle, and joining me on this co-op adventure, the guy whose insatiable appetite is only surpassed by his ability to solve crimes as a meddling kid. Josh, how are you doing this evening?
I am doing good.
Was that a question?
Yeah, I'm questioning myself. They were not meddling kids. They were they were adults. I don't know.
But when the villains got caught, that's what they always said, is that I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling kids.
I wasn't critiquing you. I was critiquing the plot of the show.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting that they called them kids all the time.
They were not kids.
So they were not kids. They were not kids.
The pup named Scooby-Doo, they were kids.
That is true. That is definitely true. I was a big Scooby-Doo fan when I was younger. I watched a lot of Scooby-Doo. I haven't watched it recently, though. So I'm wondering if that show holds up. What's the over-under on the original Scooby-Doo holding up?
Oh, it's got to hold up. But I would say I'm a couple of seasons behind on Supernatural, but I believe either this week or next week there is a animated Scooby-Doo Supernatural crossover on the Supernatural show.
Oh wow. Which
is perfect. They fit perfectly for each other.
People always tell me I should watch Supernatural, and then I look how many seasons there are of it, and I'm just nah. I didn't know.
Good.
Had I started it 12 seasons ago, I probably would be watching it still. But that's hundreds and hundreds of episodes of television to get caught up on. I was really proud.
For every good episode, they have a ghost truck episode, though. So they're like the X-Files, like that. Sometimes you get a stinker in between.
Yeah, I was really proud of myself because I was able to watch a 10-episode show, a 10-episode season of a show on Netflix just recently. And, it was each episode was only 22 minutes, but I was pretty excited that I actually got through the whole thing because I'm really bad at finishing television shows. I'm horrible at it. But if you have any desire to watch the show Everything Sucks on Netflix, it's good.
I've heard it's good.
Yeah, especially if you grew up in the 90s and have some nostalgia for it. It's pretty excellent. But anyway, hey, this is not a television show podcast, even though some weeks it could be, but it's not this week. This is a gaming podcast. So thank you so much for joining us this week. As always, if you have any feedback, questions, suggested topics, hit us up at Board with VG on Twitter. Check out all the awesome stuff we post over on Instagram, also at Board with VG. We have a Facebook account, facebook.com/boardwithvg. So feel free to give us a 5-star rating over there because of all of the awesomeness and hard work we do. We'd really appreciate that. And hey, if you want to communicate with us more long form, if you aren't so into the social media, if you're questioning whether or not you're going to keep Facebook now, or whatever it might be, you can email us boardwithvg@gmail.com. I'm still waiting for that fan fiction for us to read. Doesn't have to be about us, just any fan fiction you've written that you would like us to read on the air. As long as it's appropriate, hey, let us know. We'll do that. And then also always obviously use that hashtag Board with VG so we can, kind of keep up with what everyone's been playing and what everyone's been up to on the social medias. So, hey, that's a lot of housekeeping. We don't want to talk about that anymore. We want to talk about some games. Josh, I know for a fact you played some things on the tabletop this week. So what did you play?
Yeah, I was like, well, should I post the pictures? I don't want to wait. I have to wait till Thursday. I'll just post them now. So we played Element. It's by Rather Dashing Games. If you're not, I've seen this around. It's not a new game per se. I think 2016. Yeah, 2016. It's an abstract game, but it caught my wife's attention when we were at PAX Unplugged. Someone was doing a demo of it, and actually there was a decent amount of people waiting to play it, so we kind of just glanced at it I believe the set they were playing with was a upgraded set, better quality pieces, or bigger, one of the two. Regardless, we didn't get it while we were there, and I was at my tried and true Barnes and Noble looking at games a few months ago, and I picked it up for us, kind of like, hey, I picked something up for you. And it is a very unique game. I don't think there's any game like this that I've played, at least. So it's 2 to 4 players. We obviously played a 2-player version. You can tell by the pictures. In the box, there are 4 sages. You pick one. She said it's out of Norse mythology, and I think if you look at some of the pictures, it looks like it could be true. Regardless, they look like Jedis. I think they're pretty cool looking statues.
Norse Jedis.
Yeah, they remind me of Jedis. They have like the Force, like the hand in front of them, and like a sword that looks like a lightsaber. So that's in my fan fiction of Element. It's Jedis. And what you're doing is you have different starting positions on the board depending on how many players you have. So 2 players, you start off directly in front of each other. I think just 1 space away. And the game is basically manipulating the 4 elements, fire, water, earth, and wind. And each element can replace one depending on the order of elements. So wind replaces earth replaces water replaces fire replaces wind in whatever situation you want to be. The goal of the game is to surround your opponent so they cannot escape or so they have no more legal moves. There are many, many, many ways to do this. In fact, when you look at the instruction booklet, each element at the end has 2 full pages to explain to you the movements of putting down these pieces.
So each element has its own 2-page set of rules?
Yeah, I can show you but people will see. So that's water. So on each side tells you movement. So technically the instruction booklet itself is only 2 pages. And then the rest of the booklet is explanations of the elements. And so what you're doing is on your turn, you can blind draw out of a bag of all the elements, 4 elements, and you have 1 movement to start. Or you can draw 3 elements and have 2 movement, or 2 elements and have 3 movement, etc. And what you can decide to do is separate yourself quickly from someone so you don't both get trapped, or you can just kind of go for broke and start working on it right away. And without getting into the way necessarily how everything works, fire spreads, water runs, wind, it uses like a trampoline effect. You jump over wind. You can stack wind. So if you have 1, it's 1 move. 2, it launches you 2 spaces. 3 launches you 3 spaces. Earth is, as a base, it's just a piece of earth. But if you stack it, it becomes a mountain and it becomes impassable. So, and the reason why impassable is the buzzword is because a regular earth can be jumped over with wind, but a mountain cannot be jumped over. When you place a water tile, if there's already water down, it becomes a river and the river runs. So if you put 1 down on 1 piece, it moves 2 spaces. If you put 1 down on 2, it moves 3 spaces, but it has to be orthogonally, like in a straight line. But when you move it, you can also move it 90 degrees. So you can have your river turn. But the next time you place a water token down, it will only affect the water in the straight line.
Okay.
So you won't always be moving the river. You'll only be moving the river in a straight line. So if you took a 90-degree turn on a couple pieces, you now have to be smarter about how you're placing your river. And rivers can move fast because in our game, I put down a piece and it made it a 6-move river. And I thought I was being smart and was going to be able to surround her. I thought I had her the whole game and she got me right at the end. And I can't wait to play it again because I'm a little weary to play with 4 people, but I want to because at this there will be so much going on. But when you play 4 players, it's not a free-for-all. The person to each other's left or bottom, they have their own target. So if I'm in the top right-hand corner, I'm going after the person in the top left-hand corner.
Okay.
Person in the top left-hand corner is going on the person in the bottom left-hand corner. And it continues like a circular kind of thing. If you take out someone that wasn't your target, you lose.
Oh, wow.
You're systematically eliminated.
Is that person eliminated too, though?
I believe so. And then that will leave 2 people left.
Or
Hopefully,
one's already gone. Somebody just wins.
Right.
Wow.
So it's a very interesting chess-like style game, but it's so unique that I think that it stands on its own as an incomparable game for what I've played. Doesn't mean something else isn't. You can move diagonally as well as your pieces, but if you move diagonally onto a wind tile, it launches you diagonally.
Okay.
And if you, as an opponent, if you trap someone and you put a fire token 2 diagonal places away from a double wind, that will eliminate them from being able to move because they would kill themselves by moving.
Mm-hmm.
And as you place fire spreads. So if you put a fire token that touches 2 adjacent fire tokens, you get to add another fire token for each one it touches.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But you could put fire out with water.
Right.
So the way you lose is if you are blocked before you get to draw tokens from the bag. So you can't be surrounded by fire and hope you draw water. If you're surrounded by fire and you can't make a move, you're done.
Okay.
And that's how you lose the game. I think it's a $30 game. Just from how much I can imagine the replay value is, I think it's well worth it. And I'm going to look at, I think I like it enough that I think it might be the first game I look to buy enhanced pieces for if they're available. So also I'm going to start looking online to see if they have upgraded pieces because I think it's a good game and it'll be a fun game to play with other people, introduce other people to.
Mm-hmm.
And it plays, I think the game itself says 30-minute playtime. So that's nice. It actually says, 2 to 4 players. So 30-minute playtime, that makes it nice, easy, accessible, and, 2 meeples up for me. I don't know what I want to say there. But if you get a chance to check it out, look at the pictures on Instagram. I think it's a very beautiful game. It's simplistic, but I think the pieces are very nice looking. Mm-hmm. The board looks great. So I say give it a shot if you can.
So who would you recommend this to? Anyone?
No. I wouldn't recommend it. Okay, so obviously it's not theme heavy. Mm-hmm. So don't look in. If you're not looking for a strong themed game, skip it. If you're not looking for a thinky game, if you don't, some people don't want to put a lot of work into their board games. I totally get that.
Right.
But if you're the kind of guy who picks up a video game and loves the puzzles and God of War or Zelda or stuff like that, then this is a very puzzly, thinky game. You're not rushed. You get all the time in the world. So you can go slow, but it's an abstract thinking man's board game.
Okay.
I was going to say it's not fun, but it was fun. I had a fun time with it. But I don't think people who would look at it would describe it as a fun game. Like, it's not like a fun, like, actually, you know what it would be nice for? Winding down from the day, having a conversation with whoever you're playing with, whether it's one person or 2 or 3 other people, something that you can sit down and have a glass of wine with after dinner or whatever your thing is. I think that would be like, we played it at night after we put the kid down to bed, or he was napping, one of the 2. That's the kind of situation, like a nice, relaxing, take your time, enjoy the rest of your day kind of game or night or whatever.
Awesome. Very cool. And you just got it at Barnes & Noble, right?
I got it at Barnes & Noble. You could probably find it at any FLGS. I'm sure it's on Amazon.
Right.
Miniature Market. It's probably on sale on Miniature Market. Speaking of, I got Azul for $27 on Miniature Market.
When did you do that?
I didn't get it in the mail yet, but I bought it a couple of days ago. They just got them back in stock. Man. So I had to jump on that. I had $3 in credit from them from my points. So I was like, oh, $24 for Azul? Yes, please.
And I'm seeing if it's still. Oh no, out of stock. Dang it.
Check cool stuff. I heard it was in stock and cool stuff.
I will check that later. I was just seeing for that price. But I was like, well, it wouldn't have been quite that price for me, but it's out of stock there anyway.
Yeah. So go ahead.
So, at the beginning of the year, I made some goals, right, about some things that I wanted to do. And one of those goals was to finish these campaign games that are becoming kind of all the rage. The idea that you play through these stories. Oh, nice. Okay. So you're not talking. I was like, you're not talking, so I can't see it totally.
$28.99, the cool stuff, Inc. in stock right now.
Oh, man. That's a pretty good price, too. All right, maybe after this podcast, I'll order that. Birthday gift to myself. But anyway, so like I was saying, so I really am trying to, finish some of these longer campaign games. And as a result of that, I am still playing stuff Fables. And I feel a little guilty about that because when I come to this podcast, I always want to have new stuff that I've been playing. But I'm having such a good time with this game that I don't feel that bad about it. I am really, really enjoying this game. Even though I don't have kids, even though it's maybe a little easy, I'm really enjoying sitting down with the wife, after dinner. Like, it's a game that we can easily have like worked all day, eaten dinner, and then to say, okay, we're going to sit down for 2 hours and just play this game. And there's a story there and we can follow the story and what's going on. We can, pass turns to each other and be able to keep up with what's going on, but also just talk about how our day was and take the break to be like, oh, I'm going to do this. But like everything that we've been playing it so much now is just kind of autopilot as far as drawing the dice out of the bag, seeing what colors we get, rolling them, like going through the processes of everything that you do, that has become a really relaxing, just chill game. And the other thing that this game is actually really funny sometimes. Some of the writing in this game is hilarious. Like, I don't have kids, but some of the stuff that they talk about, the stuffed animals like experiencing and dealing with, like, it's like I could think back to myself as a child. Like, they make jokes about like the time that the child puked all over some of the toys and that some of the toys paid the ultimate price and like all the stuff that I was like, this is funny. Like, this is really funny stuff. Like, this is good. So it's actually pretty interesting and kind of how they tie everything together and how the story is progressing. One of the characters that you get a little bit later in the game is really powerful for certain things. There are boss characters you have to fight in the game on occasion, and we got to a boss, and when you're playing with 4 characters, because we each play 2, you have to like defeat them or hit them 4 times and once for each character. But one of the characters is super powerful, so like one turn, I was like, this dude's done. Like, he's just so good at those situations. So maybe not perfectly balanced, but also I can see if you are playing with kids that you want to make sure it's still fun for them and they feel like they're doing things, but still really enjoying stuff Fables. I'm hoping we'll be able to finish it up this weekend and then I can squeeze something else in as well to talk about next week. But still a really high recommendation from me, even if you don't have kids. If you enjoy a really thematic, good, fun story that's interesting, I really still recommend the game. I am probably enjoying it even more than I was when we first started playing it. I'm still having a great time with it. So, do you think when you play 2 players, do you think you need to play 2 characters each? Because my wife and I are just doing 1 each. I don't think you need to. We like to, just because for us, I like seeing what all the characters do, and it's just easier to do it that way. Right. I don't think you necessarily need to by any means. Because we did the same thing with Mice and Mystics, is that we played multiple characters. Okay. And for me, I enjoy doing it that way. It lets me experience all the different characters in the game, and it's easier for us to kind of see what everything does rather than being like, oh, we played it with just these 2. And then especially if you like get a synergy going that you like, you feel like maybe you don't want to break that up and how that all works. So we tend to play games like this with multiple characters if we can, just because of that. So sure. Do you get, when you change chapters, do they give you the option to change characters? Yeah. So each story is its own thing. Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah. So each story is standalone. So no matter whatever you earn in the first story, when you go to story 2, you're starting completely over again. So you don't take anything with you. There's no legacy effect to it at all. You are always starting from scratch again. You set up based about how that story tells you to set up. So there's some like narrative tie-ins, obviously, but from an equipment or from things you've earned standpoint, that resets every game.
Okay, cool.
So, yeah. So that's kind of what we've been playing on the tabletop. Josh, what have you been playing on your television?
Well,
Or on your phone, potentially?
oh yeah. Well, I guess if I include my phone, I've been playing a lot. I did jump into Sea of Thieves today just to get my sea legs.
Were you able to get in?
Yeah,
Okay.
but I jumped on at 11 in the morning here.
Oh, okay.
So I don't think they had any issues with people. So I just jumped in to get my character set up and sorry, I had a come up on my screen. I want it to go away. Just get my character set up because once you select your character, that's like your character. So I wanted to make sure I got my appearance down, whatever. There's not much customization for your base pirate in Sea of Thieves, so you have to I keep refreshing it to try to get something even remotely find interesting. Then I grabbed a couple things. My timer's running out though because I did it right before work. Tried to set up on a quest, but there were so many new things just from the beta to this that I was kind of exploring a little bit. Plus, now this has HDR and 4K support, and the beta didn't. So I was kind of just admiring and trying to set my settings better on my TV. So I don't know. I keep finding issues between films and TV and HDR and non-HDR that I can't get that right picture. It's just gonna bug me.
Yeah, your television, which I also have, not a great movie watching television.
Yeah, I mean, I found the settings okay. I think I have to get used to it because it normalizes the pictures. They're not so vivid and colorful, so I think you have to kind of get used to it. Which I am. I was watching Valerian. It looks incredible. It's not a great movie, but it looks incredible in 4K.
I thought that movie was better than people gave it credit for. Probably because I thought it was going to be really bad, so I enjoyed it more than I thought when I watched it.
I'm only halfway done, and I'm trying to listen to it because the podcast I listened to, How Did This Get Made, did an episode on it, so I can't wait for them to trash it. So I'll finish that tonight after the podcast. But we're not talking about movies or tangents. I started Super Hot, which is a game I've always wanted to play, and it's one of the games of gold, and that is incredibly enjoyable. I really wish I had PSVR.
So good in VR.
So I can take advantage of it because it just looks so good on the Xbox. I can't imagine being immersed into that weird, aesthetically pleasing world. Like, it's kind of like an ASMR of video games. Like, I feel like everything in that game is like pleasing to watch and see. So I can't wait to keep playing that. Played about an hour of it. And then I got accepted into the Fortnite beta on iOS, and it runs incredibly, very surprising. Like it looks very much like the PS4, and I know that's a crazy, stupid thing to say for a phone. I don't know if it runs differently on the iPhone X than on other ones. And the only reason why I say that is because I also have PUBG on my phone, which just came out. And it says that based on the phone I have, it's running on a higher setting. So, and it blatantly says that. It shows you the modes it will run on, and mine's on the highest. So Fortnite might take advantage of my processor being better. I don't know. By the way, if you're listening, I got one more beta invite for Fortnite. We get a message from Take Your Chits on Twitter, and I sent him a thing, but he got a Pixel, so he couldn't use it. So he was nice enough to tell me that, and I still have one more giveaway. So if someone wants a code for the Fortnite beta,
iOS only.
Us
the Android folks are left out for now.
Shoot us a DM. Our DMs were shut off. I didn't realize that, so I turned them on.
Really? Oops.
I kept telling people to DM me. So if you're listening and you want that code, just DM us and I'll hook you up. Otherwise, I'm not going to ramble on about more games. I'll save some games for next week. What have you, Mr. TBD, been playing?
Yeah, so I was trying to decide what I was going to do today, right? So my birthday is coming up here in a few days, and
I know I saw a picture.
Yeah. My wonderful wife came home yesterday with a PS4 Pro. So part of my gaming time was spent getting that set up and getting everything transferred and all that good stuff. Because otherwise, I just been playing Overwatch, and Sleeping Dogs. That's what I always do. But I just said, hey, I got this PS4 Pro now, and I was actually hemming and hawing a lot. I was going back and forth between getting either an Xbox One X or a PS4 Pro, and then in a couple months, because I have an Xbox and a PS4, so I was like, well, I'll get one of the two, and then wait a couple months, and then trade in the other two, and just spend the extra difference to get the other one. So that's still the plan. So probably after E3, I'm thinking I'll probably get an Xbox One X and trade in my base PS4 and my Xbox One S that I currently have to get that. But I was like, God of War is coming up soon, and the previews came out, and that apparently this game is going to be incredible. So I was like, well, we'll go with the PS4 Pro first. So that's what we did. So I booted up and just jumped into Horizon just to see what it looks like, because that game is still downloaded. And I was like, oh, man. As someone who regularly talks about how I don't care what games look like as long as they play well, when they look nice, it's an added benefit. Let me tell you, when they play well and look good. So that game looks pretty incredible. I haven't done the Frozen Wilds yet. I was purposely saving it because I've kind of had this idea of getting a PS4 Pro for a while. So I've had it downloaded on my system since it came out, and I just haven't jumped into it. So I got that, and I was like, okay, this looks good, but I don't remember how to play this game. So I'm going to set this aside for a moment. I'm going to wait until I have multiple hours to sit down and play this and get back into it. But then I said, hey, this game came out last week that I've been interested in. And it's a smaller game, but for me, my gaming comfort food has always been twin stick shooters. I love a good twin stick shooter. And last week, this game, Tesla versus Lovecraft from 10 Tons. Yeah, from 10 Tons came out. They made in the past Crimson Land, which is a game I have and is a lot of fun. And then Neon. They also made Neon Chrome, which I have, but I haven't played yet. But I do have it, I think, from PS Plus or something. But I haven't played it yet. But I was like, hey, Tesla versus Lovecraft kind of fits like a board game theme to a degree too, right? How many Lovecraft, games are there? HP Lovecraft based games. So we're gonna jump into this. And the trailer looked cool, so I was like, we'll give it a shot. It's $15. Why not? Josh, this game is incredible. Yeah, it's so good. It's so much fun. If you are into twin stick shooters, I can't recommend this game enough. It's not a 10, but it is definitely a solid 8.5 game, where if you are into twin stick shooters, you're going to sit down, you'll immediately feel comfortable with it. You'll get and understand how to play the game. And the controls are so tight, and the screen is fun to look at. It's not quite as good as Nex Machina was from Housemarque last year, but every year I seem to find this twin stick shooter that just fall in love with. A couple of years ago, it was Assault Android Cactus. Last year was Nex Machina. This year, I think it's going to be Tesla versus Lovecraft. 10 Tons, oddly enough, a Finland-based studio. So apparently they know how to make twin stick shooters up there between them and Housemarque, who's not making those anymore, sadly. But this is just a really fun game. Basic premise is you're Tesla. You're trying to, I don't want to say fight off, but basically Lovecraft has gotten really upset with all of your technology, saying it's going to bring us back. It's going to set society back. So then he basically, I think, unleashes all these Lovecraftian monsters on you. So you're running around your level twin stick shooting. But what you're trying to do is pick up the pieces to this big mech. And after you pick up all the pieces, Tesla jumps into this huge mech, and you just start mowing down these monsters like crazy. But the mech has a limited amount of time that it works. And then after, a little bit, it blows up again, and then you have to go try to pick up all the pieces again to bring this mech back together and then just mow things down. It is a really fun game. It is very short. The levels take, the first initial levels are 20, 30 seconds. The longest levels by the end of the, once you get towards the end of the game, are 4 or 5 minutes. And it kind of progresses you through one world is the easy world of hey, you're where we are today. Then there's a more difficult version, and then a even more difficult version. I played the game for about 2.5 hours today. Got 75% of the trophies already, so I'm pretty stoked about that. I think this is going to be a platinum. I'm going to be able to get the platinum in this. I think I'm only 4 trophies short, but I'm really enjoying it. I think it's definitely worth the $15, especially if you enjoy twin stick shooters. It's out on everything. It's on PS4, Xbox, Switch. I think it's on mobile as well. So if you are into twin stick shooters and you're looking for something to play to fill in some time that you can jump into for 5 minutes or 5 hours, Tesla versus Lovecraft, I definitely recommend giving it a whirl.
Nice.
All right, so that's kind of what we've been playing. For our topic of the show this week, we decided we wanted to jump into some truths that exist in game. These are the things that you'll hear people say, potentially even us, that sometimes people feel like these are just things that we should take for granted, or this is just kind of the way things are. Now, for everything that we say, you might say, well, no, that's dumb. That's not a truth at all. But what we want to do is talk a little bit about where did these truths come from? How accurate do we think they are? Do they hold most of the time, none of the time, half the time? And kind of what we think about all of these. So these cover both board games and video games. Some of them are more focused on one than the other. But we just want to take some time, talk about some of these truths, whether we agree with them, and all of that good stuff. So the first truth that we have, very fitting based off me just talking about playing a twin stick shooter. But truth number one, gameplay is king. What do you think, sir? Is gameplay king?
He is my favorite Tekken character, so I would say yes. Is that the question?
That's it? You're just saying yes, gameplay is king. Is gameplay the most important thing about playing a game?
Oh, not King from Tekken.
No, not King from Tekken.
Okay. Gameplay king. I mean, the obvious answer is yes, but I think like if you take a look back at PS1 games, or even original Xbox games, the gameplay for Tomb Raider or Knights of the Old Republic wasn't stellar. You know, the controls are terrible for pretty much both games, and many other games. So I think people think gameplay is king. I understand that mindset. I do, but I think it's always going to be story for me. Like the narrative, the story, the plot, that's what's king for me. I can get by bad controls and bad graphics for a great story. However, I think that's few and far between. I think you're more likely to play a game with terrible Call of Duty plot and enjoy the graphics and get a good game experience out of it. I think you're going to see that more often than you're going to see a bad graphical game with a good story. I think we're fortunate now, though, that we're getting the best of both worlds. But I think where that comes from, I don't personally subscribe to it, but I understand why people do. What has that been your experience?
Well, so here, okay, so how good? So tell me about that riveting story in PUBG or in Fortnite.
Well, I mean, PUBG, there's no gameplay or story.
Kevin would disagree.
No, right now, PUBG is a victim of publicity. Is a victim of new hotness. If I can use a terrible phrase I would never use in public,
but you just did.
But I did. I think Fortnite. Yeah, gameplay obviously is king in Fortnite. People just complain about PUBG. I don't know, like if I would even. I don't have a problem with PUBG. Honestly, I enjoy my time with it. Yeah, there's no story, and I think there's dozens of games without story where gameplay is great, but I think you can forgive a game with bad gameplay that has a story.
Yes.
Conversely.
Yes. Yeah, that's kind of where I lie too. I think obviously I want them both to be good, but I am more willing to forgive a game with poor gameplay and a riveting story than I am for. Well, I shouldn't even say that because there are games that I play all the time. I think it depends on what is going for, right? Because obviously Fortnite, there's not a lot of story there, but the gameplay is really, really fun. It's not quite as tight as I'd like it to be, but it's fun. Like it's a good time. Same with PUBG. The gameplay, it's fitting what people are looking for. Not necessarily a riveting story. That's why back in the day, I played a ton of Call of Duty multiplayer because the gameplay of that was so tight, but there was no purpose for a story in the multiplayer, But yeah, I'm willing to forgive I think back to, and it's more than just gameplay, just technical issues like season 1 of The Walking Dead. Like that game did not control well at all.
It was horrible. It was like every Telltale game.
They still haven't fixed it. But a lot of people were like, that's the game of the year. And it's like, really? Like, how could that be game of the year? Like, that thing controlled so poorly. And, so I think gameplay to me is still the most important thing. Like, because for me to overcome poor gameplay, the narrative has to be very good. And I think there are very few studios who are capable of making a narrative good enough for me not to care about the gameplay as much. Like, I love the Uncharted games. If you're going to try to get me to defend how good the shooting is in Uncharted, it's fine. You know, like, it's not bad, but there's definitely better third-person shooters than Uncharted.
Right. And look at like Mass Effect Andromeda, like, no one is going to ever talk about the story because the gameplay was so bad.
Yeah.
You know, which is a bummer because the Mass Effect universe is one of the most interesting things in gaming we have. And it's been overshadowed by the terrible gameplay. So I guess that is more in the gameplay is king corner.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say for board games, it's 100% gameplay is king.
Yes.
100%.
Because it's so hard to get the story to, like, I think it's very hard to get a good narrative through line in a board game so that if it does exist, even if the game's boring to play, like, no, it doesn't matter. Like, then you might as well just read a story, like read a book, you know?
Exactly.
So, all right. Truth number 2, sir. Art direction / design is more important than graphical fidelity.
It's yes. It is. I mean, you need art direction design is the base. It's the foundation. I don't care how great your graphics are. They grow off of art design. And I don't even know necessarily a situation where it could be reversed or you could consider graphical fidelity better than that, or because it doesn't exist without it. However, if I'm going to play devil's advocate, a script often gets a write-up or a punch-up. So who's to say graphical fidelity didn't take the art design and make it 10 times better than what it originally was? I just don't have that line of sight to say 100% that could be a thing. So I have to side with art direction.
Right. Yeah, I think the easy answer, or the easy way to prove this truth accurate or true, is everyone just says, well, look at Nintendo, right? Like, Nintendo makes very, very pretty games that look really good on, what is traditionally underpowered, or not traditionally as of late, underpowered software or hardware, right? Like, the Switch is not as powerful as an Xbox One X or a PS4 Pro. However, Mario Odyssey looks really, really nice. Breath of the Wild looks really good. Splatoon 2 has a really nice, pretty, beautiful, well, maybe not pretty, but beautiful art direction that game goes. And that's kind of the idea of, like, Nintendo games look great. Mario Kart, when you're playing Mario Kart and racing, like, the tracks look great, the characters look great. Some people think that, most Nintendo things look a little too plasticky. But for me, I think that Nintendo games as a whole look really good. Even if you jump on to the current quote unquote gen of consoles and look at what's being released on PS4 and Xbox, like, the games there are indie devs who are doing really unique things with their art direction that aren't getting 4K, HDR on the Pro and on the Xbox One X, but their games still look stunning. So I think you are onto something there with, does having that graphical punch up help? Absolutely. If you can take a game like Call of Duty World War II with its realistic looking graphics and punch it up to 4K HDR, then yeah, COD World War II is going to look exceptional. However, Nintendo still putting along, making really pretty games on hardware that is underpowered compared to its current generation counterparts. So I think this is mostly true. I think typically art direction is going to be far more important than graphical fidelity.
What do you think about games that like have all these remastered games coming out? How do you think those are affected by this rule of thumb? Or
that's interesting, because I think about that, when I've been playing Sleeping Dogs, the Sleeping Dogs doesn't look exceptional. Like, it's fine. Like, it looks fine, and it's a remaster. I haven't had a chance to check out Burnout, but most people tell me, like, it looks better, but it's not like exceptional. I think that unless you're doing something like what they did with Shadow of the Colossus, where you're like literally rebuilding it, even though apparently it was still the PS2 engine running underneath all of that. I don't necessarily think it is going to play as huge of a role in it. Like something like Okami is a clear picture that like art direction is really, really important. And whether that's running in 4K or running in 720p, Okami looks beautiful. A game like Sleeping Dogs, I think, is where you say, like, yeah, when you're going for that realism, if you can't punch it up, like, Call of Duty World War II is now on like an Xbox One X. But like when you look at that game and compare it to Sleeping Dogs, which are both going for realism, you're like, oh man, yeah, that doesn't,
Right.
I think there's definitely going to be a hindrance there then.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Truth number 3, and this is obviously very board game focused. Component quality does not impact whether or not a game is quote unquote good. What say you, sir?
So I'm going to ask you a question that I was going to ask you for the previous one that I think could apply to both, but more specifically to this. Take Fireball Island, original.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Take new Fireball Island.
Yeah.
Let's say they play exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say its graphic fidelity has been upgraded.
Okay. Yeah.
But the art design is still the same.
Mm-hmm.
So for this question, the components have now been graphically upgraded for a board game. If the gameplay is exactly the same, I think this answers the question that you just asked me. If the gameplay is exactly the same, but one is prettier, is nicer to look at, but maybe more expensive, definitely more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Is that game better than the game that plays exactly the same?
And that's the slippery slope of, does your enjoyment level or does how nice a game look impact whether or not the game is good?
Right.
And I don't necessarily know if I know the answer to that. And that's one of the reasons I want to put this on here. Of like, for me, I know a lot of us say like, oh, you sit down and you objectively look at something and you can say, well, this is done well and this is done poorly. So even if you don't, like, I struggle with that a little bit. Like, yes, I can look at like Breath of the Wild, the game that we always go back to, that I clearly did not enjoy as much as other people did. I get why other people like it. For me, it's just like, for me though, it's still just not as high of a level. It's still not better than Link to the Past for me, right?
Right.
If I look at like a board game where I'm like, oh, the gameplay is kind of fun, but it kind of meh. Like, it's harder for me, especially in board games, to separate like the looking at the quality of the mechanic and the game design from the graphic design. Like, I look at like the box cover and I'm like, nah, no.
Right.
Even though the inside of the game might be great, and that's what I think is hard sometimes.
Yeah, no, and I think this is definitely leaning in the board game category as a question, but take like Lego Dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't played it. I'm familiar with it. I know you have to build your Legos before you put them on the pedestal to play them in the game.
Yep.
So what if you get Lego Dimensions, you spend $80 on the base set. This is before they went defunct.
Right.
And say it's like the Batmobile, right? So I'll take something I'm passionate about Batman, and I'll say I buy the Batman set. It has Batman, Batgirl, Batmobile, whatever. What if my Batmobile I get as a Lego looks terrible, but in the game it looks fine? Or what if I find out for Batman, all I needed to do was put his legs into the podium and not have to build Batman, and he looks great in the game? Like, does that affect my gameplay experience? I think absolutely it does. Because if you have the premise of you're building this object to be digitally represented, then the components absolutely affect the quality of the game. However, I do know people who love shortcuts, like with the Wii or the Wii U or the Switch. People who like play Just Dance and they go, or Wii Baseball, they're like, I don't even have to stand up. I can just fling my hand at the screen and it does everything that all you dummies are doing, standing up, full swinging a tennis racket. Yeah, sure, you can get by with that, but you're not experiencing the game as it has been meant to be experienced. Mm-hmm. You could just as well like take any of your favorite board games and take the pieces out and put them into another board game. because you think the components look better or worse, or use a Ryu figure instead of a panda in Takenoko because you think the component's better. You could just as easily do that as well. But, is that enhancing your game experience, or is that just making you feel, I don't know, I don't even know the words. Does it make you feel like the game you bought doesn't represent the cost you spent?
Right. Well, because in thinking about this truth, like the thing that I went to right away was Food Chain Magnate, right?
Sure.
Like I haven't had a chance to play the game. I've seen the game. It is not pretty.
Right.
And it's really expensive for what you're getting. But it's like top 50 on Board Game Geek all time. Everyone that I know who's ever played it loves the game. But I look at that game and I'm like, that game is drab. And it's like not, the components aren't high quality. Like nothing in it looks nice. Like everything seems that they went with like the lowest quality that they could to make it, because they don't, it's a niche game. It's a really heavy game. Like you have to really be into gaming to get it. So they don't print a ton of them as a result. So they don't, they can't use the nicest stuff, but people love that game. Would they like it more if it had really nice components with like 3D models for the, restaurants and like all, like would that make that game better?
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's people in this world who like Sharknado.
Are you one of those people?
No.
Okay.
Those people don't care about quality of pieces. Sometimes it's about entertainment. And some people look real hard to find that.
So would we say for this truth that a game can be good without quality components, but quality components might help you enjoy a game more?
Makes it better. Yeah. Quality components make a game better.
Okay. And then the final truth that I will bring to the table, truth number 4, and if you are ever in our Discord, you will hear this all the time. Old game is old. Is old game old, Josh?
I was trolling Fluxtaposed all night during their live episode recording because they were talking about Bayonetta and Payday 2.
Which is old.
Bayonetta is 8 years old. It's older than Payday 2, by the way.
I know. I just really like Bayonetta, which is why
also,
I ignored
Lucas
that
thinks
fact.
She wears a leather outfit. I had to correct him on that too.
It's her hair, buddy. It's her hair.
Not leather. Old game is old unless it's new to you.
Okay.
That's my blanket statement. Yes, old game is old. One of the things I'm sick of right now, and this will explain why I feel that way, is people charging $60 for an 8-year-old game.
But it's on Switch now.
Unacceptable. It's not just Switch. It happens on PlayStation and Xbox.
It does. I know.
But obviously, Switch has their infamous $10 markup on every game that ever comes out on the Switch. I'm totally on board with introducing people to games they never played. I'm totally on board with remasters. I'm totally not on board with charging for full price for what would be a new Zelda game for Bayonetta. I know people love it.
Well, I mean, at $60, you did get 2 games. You got Bayonetta and Bayonetta 2.
Okay. So maybe Bayonetta is not the great example, but it's still $30 a game for an 8 and 4-year-old game. That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
I mean, we talk about this a lot with the FOMO, hashtag butts. We can't all afford this. Hobby is an expensive hobby, and we're talking about 2 hobbies. We are in the 2 most expensive hobbies. It doesn't seem like a smart decision to. I know obviously people are out there to make money. I get that, but you're also limiting your audience for people who want to enjoy your game. And that age-old mantra of "I'll wait till Black Friday" is like that for a reason, because South Park Stick of Truth is going to be $20 next week at Target.
Yep.
New game is old. It's $60 for Bayonetta, $20 for Stick of Truth. But you know what? In 5 years, Stick of Truth's probably going to be $70 because it will be on the Switch. Well,
no, that's coming in like April or something to Switch.
Okay, so that'll be full
sometime
price.
soon. Yeah,
you can get it for $20 next week. So, old game is old, yes, but take it as you want to. Right now, it's meme worthy. Like it's just a pop culture buzz. But That's just this man's opinion.
Yeah,
What do you say?
I think mostly old game is old, but I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. And I think a lot of times nostalgia gets into when we talk about how great games were. There have been more than one time that I've played a game and been like, oh man, I love this game. And I haven't played it in a decade. And I go back and play it. And I'm like, did I really love this game? Like, am I sure that I love this game? Like, I think as we move forward, that doesn't mean that there aren't classics out there that stand the test of time. Like, absolutely those exist. But I think that, one of the reasons that gaming is so exciting is things are constantly pushing forward. And maybe we don't have the huge revolutions and changes in the gaming industry that we used to. But now the quality of life improvements that we're having, to me, are so important when it comes to games, whether it just even be games that autosave. Right. You don't have to worry about saving and losing hours and hours and hours of progress, and because how often do people complain now when a game doesn't autosave? Like, that's a huge issue to people. They're like, well, you got to go do this thing. And that's just so annoying, So I think old game is old, but we shouldn't forget where we came from. We should understand the quirks of what that means, that there can still be really good, iconic games that are old. But I still appreciate the advancements that we've made. I still like some old games. I will say, when I got my SNES Classic and I went back and played some of the games on there, I was like, man, I do not remember that game being like this. Clearly it was, though, because that's just the way it was. So yes, old game is old, but like you said, take that for what it means. It doesn't mean it's necessarily bad. So you added a couple truths to this. What are the truths that you would like to bring to the floor, sir? All
right, on the board gaming front, stop me if you heard this one already. but you don't stop me. Monopoly is terrible, and it's never to be mentioned in gaming circles ever. And if you do, you will not be accepted in this hobby. And today I watched Dice Tower's boring unboxing. And he had to open 2 Monopolies. And he literally said at the end, I hate you, Hasbro.
I'm surprised they kept them to him.
Yeah, well, yeah, one was for like National Monopoly Day, which was yesterday, and one was for he inadvertently got the Hasbro monthly subscription box or quarterly one.
Oh, okay.
So it had the same games he got in the other one. But anyways, what do you think on this, and why don't you tell people what you've heard about this?
Yeah, so obviously, hobby board game people don't like Monopoly in general. Like, that's kind of the thing. And like when people are like, oh, I love Monopoly, everyone kind of cringes. I don't like Monopoly. I don't think Monopoly is a good game. However, if that is the only thing you've ever been exposed to, or as with many people, there's a lot of nostalgia with Monopoly. They played it with their parents. They played it with their grandparents. It's hard for me. I try not to talk bad about Monopoly as a result of that, because I think Monopoly as a game is not very good, but I think Monopoly as a memory for many people is very positive. They associate a lot of good things with that. So I try not to talk about, because when you say Monopoly isn't good, if somebody likes it, they take that as a personal affront, right? A thing I like isn't quality, which means I must not know what good is. We all do that. So I try not to speak poorly about Monopoly, especially when I'm talking to people who aren't in the hobby game scene. I'll be like, oh yeah, no, it's really cool that you found some games that you like. Have you considered maybe these other things that might be also up your alley or also fit what you like, that might give you a different perspective? I don't try to ever say that they're better, even though that's what I'm thinking, because I think, like I said, I don't want to become off as elitist or like that you don't know what's good. So yeah, I mean, I think we hear this all the time, right? With jokes, Monopoly is kind of, the easy joke in the hobby board game scene. And I think for good reason as far as how, maybe good or not good the game is. But I also think we have to be a little bit careful about how we approach that and talk about it, because I think there are a lot of people who have a lot of fond memories of Monopoly, not because of the quality of the game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think like Monopoly is like the game everyone starts on. Mm-hmm. And then you have all these like these gamers who think the reason why I think this started as a thing is because you have all these people who consider themselves like elite gamers, and they're like, oh, you still play Monopoly? Kind of like the shaming kind of thing. So I think that's where it started from. And I remember very vividly many, many Dice Towers ago, maybe 100 or more Dice Towers ago, they were talking about how we're trying to get more people into the hobby. And I think someone had sent them an email or something saying like, I was told to leave a table because I played Monopoly and I was just trying to find a new game and people wouldn't want to play with me. So like to that, like I love Monopoly. People don't love playing it with me. But I grew up on Monopoly. That's what I played with my parents. We had game nights. We played Yahtzee and Monopoly and Sorry and Trouble. Like these are games we played, and Rummy Cube. But like we played Monopoly. I loved Monopoly. Do I play it now? No. We've had some nights where people have wanted to play it and we've played it, and then they remember why they hate playing Monopoly with me, and then we don't play for years. So, I mean, if you like Monopoly, more power to you, I think. No one's here to tell you not to like a game. And if you want to introduce more people to it, do it. My kid will be playing Monopoly. It's in my mind, it's a good gateway game because it gets them familiar with rules
and math
and bargaining and auctioning and trading and lying and everything. Like you learn all your skills, or basic board game skills from Monopoly. So I say start with it. You don't have to keep playing it, but you should own a copy of Monopoly in your house. I don't care if it's Rick and Morty Monopoly or My Little Pony Monopoly or Base Monopoly, because I hate all the brandings of it. That's the one thing I hate about it.
We don't have Monopoly in our house.
You should have a go to Toys R Us. They're going out of business. Buy a $5.
We don't have Toys R Us went out of business like a year ago.
Well, buy it online. I'll send you one. I'm gonna send you Monopoly. You don't get to pick what it will be though.
All right. Well, I hope it's My Little Ponies then.
Maybe. Our last truth, and this is one of my favorites. You have to pick a side: Nintendo, Sony, or Microsoft. No other. You have to be a fanboy of something.
Yep.
Hell, who are you a fanboy of?
No, you have. There's no other option, right?
That's what I've been told.
Here's what I will say about this. I think that we care. I don't want to say we. The one thing I don't like about the whole like fanboy idea, and I don't like saying fanboy, but the thing I like, let me back up first. The thing I like about it is it's really cool to get excited about something with other people who are excited about it, right? When the Nintendo Direct happened that revealed Smash Brothers, like it was really cool to see all those people get that excited about it. I had made the comment, I'm like, I don't understand, like I thought we all knew Smash Brothers was coming. Like everything as an outside Nintendo fan, like everything that people have been telling me was like, well, probably with the launch of the online service, it seems like Smash would be right around the corner. So I kind of just was assuming that soon we would hear about Smash Brothers. And I said that, and I realized after I said it, I kind of poo-pooed on some people's parades, and that was not my intent. I was like, I think it's really awesome that everyone's super excited. I just didn't realize, like I just thought this was more of a known property than clearly it was. So I think that getting excited about things is fun. Like we enjoy the hype. Hype is cool. Like being excited about the things that we're passionate about, I think is great. And I think that's the good part of being a fan of something. I think the bad part of being a fan about something, and I think this is especially true with Xbox and PlayStation fans, is I feel like we get more joy. And I say we because I'm a PlayStation guy. We get more joy out of seeing the other people make mistakes or fail than we do about getting excited about the things that we're passionate about. And that's the thing that drives me nuts. Like I own all the consoles now, but the reason I tend to align myself with PlayStation is because I enjoy the exclusives more. That's just the reason that I do it. I still think Xbox has really good exclusives. I enjoy playing them. Just at the end of the day, if I'm going to pick one, if I had to pick one, I would pick PlayStation. Hence, that's where I started the generation at. That doesn't mean I don't like Xbox. That doesn't mean I don't want them to succeed. I think they've been doing some brilliant things with Game Pass, with how much they pushed the Xbox One X and how many people they've got on board with it, with them putting all of their first-party exclusives on Game Pass. Like they have really been pushing the envelope on what they do. Now, I think that also is, to get people ingrained into their console, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think they've been making a lot of really great movement, and that's going to put pressure on PlayStation to see if they're going to stay complacent like they kind of have been, or are they going to do some cool things at E3 this year. And I think having being able to look at both of those things logically and saying like, hey, here's the good about this, here's the bad about this, here's how these kind of interact, I think is great. Like I said, I'm cool with people being fanboys when it's about hype and being excited about the thing you're passionate about. I really get annoyed when it comes to this thing is better than your thing or this thing is worse than your thing. Like, I can tell you all the stupid things about PlayStation. Like, I'm well aware of them. Like, I get it. Like, if I have to hear one more person talk about crossplay, like, I get it. You know, I understand. It's stupid. Also, though, there's no reason for them to do it from a business perspective. None.
Right.
Like, would I like it? I absolutely would like it, but I get why they're not doing it. I understand that, but it's still stupid. I know that. You don't need to tell me again. Like, I hear you. Like, I recognize that. So that was probably a really long-winded answer. I think, again, awesome when you're excited about things, but stay focused on being excited about things. Let's not rip each other down and call each other stupid because we like different things. And Nintendo folks are just out there liking their own thing. They don't care about anybody else.
They're in their own little world.
Which is great. They're just like excited about Nintendo.
Yeah. No, I mean, for me, I think very, obviously not everyone, but of something that most people have in common is growing up, they're given a sports team to root for, regardless of the sport. And they're told all these other teams are terrible.
Yeah.
And I think that's where this stems from, because way before video games, at least for our generation, we had sports. And we were told we're the best, everyone else is the worst.
Correct.
And eventually, as a gamer, you find your affiliation with a gaming company, whether it's Nintendo or Sony or Microsoft or Atari, who has a new console coming out.
Yeah, they do.
Or Sega or whatever. Everyone takes that sports mentality that was driven into them, whether they play t-ball or pee-wee football or golf or whatever. And they said, okay, well, rationally, I have to pick a home team and I have to hate everybody else. And that's not the case. I'm not sitting here and telling you, you have to root for every football team on Sunday. You hope they all win. I get it. You have a favorite team, but for video games, you get to experience all of the consoles. You're not out there on the football field playing for every team. Right. You have the ability to experience every console. We're obviously in the fortunate group of people who have all of them. That doesn't mean we'll have all the new ones that we'll probably hear about at E3. So to tell someone they have to pick a side or to be so belligerent about it and be rude about it or whatever your issue is, you kind of just have to let it go. Like, no one has to pick a side.
Correct.
In my opinion.
Speaking of, no, I agree with you 100%. The thing that I found, going back a little bit to what you just said, do you realize that 2019 will be 6 years since the PS4 and the Xbox One were released?
That's crazy, and it's scary because that means we're due new consoles. And
I know,
just
right?
got an Xbox One X.
I know, and we're
was the price of a new console.
because 2020 would be 7 years, which was the life cycle of the 360 and the PS3, which people said was long. Like, that was a long console cycle.
Yeah.
So
technology is only getting better faster, so the console generations will change faster.
I was like, "There's no way we're going to hear about the next PlayStation this year." I was like, "There's no way we're going to." Maybe we will. I don't know.
Just talk to me out of buying a PS4 Pro.
Well, you have an Xbox One X. There you go. I'll just tell you about how nice God of War looks.
Yeah,
so.
I know.
But all right. Well, hey, we should probably wrap this show up. We do have a question from the PlayStation Experience podcast that we didn't answer last time. We're not going to answer it this week either because we're way over on time. But hey, if they keep listening to us, I'll keep listening to them. And maybe I have to double check because I haven't listened to the latest episode. I got to download my book club.
They're mad at me.
Are they mad at you? What'd you do?
I made fun of them because they don't have EA access.
See, there you go. You're just talking about picking a horse.
It was just 2 tweet mentions, and then they called me insecure, so I had to stop following them and listening to them.
Anyway, so hey, what are other gaming truths you all have heard, and do you agree with them or disagree with them? Hit us up on social media. Let us know at BoardWithVG on Twitter. What are those truths you've heard? Do you agree or disagree? Josh, let's bring this one home.
Let's do it. Thanks for joining us, guys and gals. remember, we go through it all the time. If you don't know where to find us, this must be your first episode. Board with VG at Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, Board with VG at gmail.com. We're easy to find. Find us. Tell some friends. Have them find us. I got a Fortnite code. Come find us. We're all over the place. You can find me at Josh Bones on Twitter. If you want to check out my Instagram, it's dad, gamer, all spelled out. I'm going to change that. We have too many confusing names. Rest in peace, Facebook. What do you got, Kyle?
I only have one confusing name. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, PlayStation Network, Xbox Live, Board Game Geek, all at Psychocross, CYCOCROSS. As always, if you have suggestions for future topics, reach out to us on social media or via email. Let us know what you want us to talk about. We are happy to tackle any topic you send our way, no matter how controversial, no matter how difficult. We are up to tackling it. So let us know, what do you want to hear us talk about? And remember, everyone, whether it be board games or video games, never stop gaming.
This has been a production of the Play Some Video Games Podcast Network. Find more great content at playsomevideogames.com.